Hi! So I said I was going to do a video about how I feel that aligning with my soul was the way that I was able to overcome ME and chronic fatigue. So basically, I became ill with chronic fatigue in 2006 when I had a corporate career and thought I had the most wonderful life, and I had a very what at the time I thought was a wonderful partner, and lived in this fancy pad in Bristol, and I was getting promoted really quickly and my career was doing really well, and then whoosh, all of a sudden I was sort of struck down, and I didn't have the energy to get out of bed, to even cook for myself, to even have a shower. And at the time, it felt like my world had literally fallen apart. My career was everything to me, and and when it first happened, all I wanted was to get back to work. All I thought about was getting back to work. I couldn't think about anything else, just how devastating it was to be off work for even a week, and then it was like 2 weeks, and then I was just like, at the point of 2 weeks I realised that this project I was involved with and basically responsible for as part of my job, I was going to have to hand over to somebody else, because it just felt like my whole world was totally falling apart. And at the very beginning I was just clinging on, really, just kind of, it was almost like I was holding my breath, waiting for it to be over so I could go back to work. And it was when I went to the doctor for the second time, I can't remember how long it had been, but I went back for the second time, and she said, Charlotte, you're not going to be going back to work this year. That I finally let go. I let go of, I sort of had to surrender, really, and just let go of this, putting all my focus on getting myself back to work, and when was I going to get back to work, and thinking about work, to just, my attention changed to, how am I going to look after me, and how am I going to get myself well, and fuck shit, what am I going to do? And this is just, I mean, it still felt like an absolute disaster, but that in that moment I had the realization that it was futile to keep on just thinking about work and getting back to work, because it was obvious that I wasn't going to be going back to work anytime soon. And at that point, I wasn't getting any better, and I realised that I couldn't really look after myself because I couldn't cook for myself, and I was on my own all day when my partner was out of work, and I decided to move back in with my mum, so that she could take care of me. And so she was out at work all day, but she would, I mean, she sort of, and I together, when I could, when I had the focus and the energy, I had a little research on, you know, things that you could do to help. And obviously, like, nutrition is one of the things that comes up again and again. So my mum basically took care of me the best she could, and we researched it, or she got this book and then found that coenzyme Q10 is meant to be really good, and I started on that, and other nutritional supplements, and but I was still just spending all day every day resting and doing nothing. And then one particular day when my mum was out at work, I was just lying there, and this voice, I heard this voice, and I can't, at the time, I didn't really think much of it because I didn't really know what to make of it. I just put it down to just an idea coming into my head, but looking back, it was more like the voice was kind of like outside of me. And it just said, "What the fuck have you been doing?" And I can't really explain it. It's like, it wasn't the words, it was just suddenly I had this awareness that the second before I hadn't had, which was that I put all of my focus on my career and had been doing that for years, and had never, ever, ever asked myself the question, what do I want to do with my life? What matters to me? And I had never put my health first, or even I'd just been going down a conveyor belt basically, and I'd never stopped to reflect on what mattered. And I hadn't been taught growing up that I didn't have parents who valued or put any emphasis on being healthy or valuing your body. I mean, it was like the contrary, really. My dad was in a car accident way before I was born, and that left him with brain damage. And as a result of that, he was very violent growing up. And the way that my mum would kind of comfort me would be to like give me loads of sugary food. So I always had like weight problems, and I certainly never received anything in my childhood to suggest that your body mattered. It was all about hard work and your brain, and doing well at school, which I did. So I'd always work hard, always strive to be the best. I always valued working hard and my career. And in this moment, this like epiphany was just, what the hell is all that for? What's the point of all of that? Like, where exactly does the career ladder go? It's kind of just posh slavery. And so I let that sink in for a bit, and then I noticed that I started to get a little bit better, in the sense of at least I had enough energy to kind of read a little bit, and I just had this pull to, I know it sounds like really, really cheesy and kind of a bit cringe, but actually it turned out to be exactly what I needed, because I felt this pull towards Paul McKenna's Change Your Life in 7 Days. And basically within that book, it asks you what you want for your life. And this is the first time I'd ever actually really asked myself, rather than just carrying along the conveyor belt of university. Then I went back to university to do a master's degree, and then I do my career, and you just do it. That was what happened for me anyway. And so I actually thought, right, what is life about? What are we here for? And reflecting back on how many times I'd stayed up to 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning writing reports for my job, finishing things off, preparing for presentations, and getting up really early in the morning to travel, to get flights for my job, and just realising that this whole culture, like I suppose over time, it just started to really sink in that the entire culture is not designed for us to listen to our hearts or souls and follow what we really want in life. And so through the course of doing the exercises in the book, it was funny actually looking back on it now, because this is going back to 2006, so it's a hell of a long time ago, but the more I reflected on what I really wanted in life, the more I got better. It was absolutely miraculous. And I actually ended up being back in work. Because the reason I went back to work was because my company was so kind to me. They still paid me in full, and they paid bonuses even though I wasn't there. And they had been so kind. I didn't want to just, as soon as I was better, just hand in my notice and leave. It just didn't feel like the right thing to do. So I went back, and you know, I said that the doctor had said I wouldn't be back this year. Well, I was actually back. I think it was about the 10th of December, so just before the end of the year, I was back in work and well again. And really all I did was plan and envision what I really wanted for my life. And 6 months from after going back to work, because I wanted to give them loads of notice, because I was quite senior at that point, and it was like a 3-month notice anyway, but I wanted to give them as much notice as possible. So I gave them pretty much 5 months notice, and then left to go travelling so that I could delve more deeply into what I really wanted and kind of find myself. And then that started an entire process of synchronicities and unraveling and spiritual awakening and everything else. But looking back on it now, it was all aligning with my soul. It was like I was on the wrong path. I was not noticing myself. I was completely unaware of my own needs and my own desires and my own truth and my purpose and everything. And so through this realignment, this realization, and working out what I wanted to do, I got better. And the only time I sort of had a relapse since was just after I got married. We decided to go and live with my mum for a while, and that clearly wasn't aligned either, because as soon as I started living with her, I got really ill again, same. And as soon as I moved out, I was fine again. So I know how absolutely diabolically awful you feel when you have this ME or chronic fatigue, and I know it might seem like, oh, it was just me, I was just lucky, because obviously it seems like most people do have it for a long time and find it really difficult to overcome it. But part of me wonders whether, and I don't mean this patronisingly, and I could be wrong, I'm not saying I'm right, but part of me wonders whether that's because we're kind of conditioned to believe it will be with us for years and years, and so that's what we expect, and so that's what manifests. But there is a book which I discovered after I was better, called CFS, Call for Soul Work. And when I read it, I found that it talked about a lot of the things that I'd actually experienced. And basically it's saying that chronic fatigue is just that. It's a call to do the work of the soul. It's a call to look at your soul and what your soul wants, and to reevaluate your entire life, really, and where you're going, and to really look within and be honest about what you want, and to believe that you can have it, you can go for it, you can at least make the steps towards it. So it's a process of going within, really, and asking the questions and meditating and sitting down and asking what you really, really want, and then aligning your life to it, and to be open to it changing. And to, because it's so funny, I got better after I'd done these practices, these exercises of going within and asking these questions. But when I actually did them at the time, because I was still so much in that mindset of mainstream mindset, the things I wrote down that I wanted were like a fancy house and a nice car and a horse and all this kind of thing, stuff which actually, as I walked the path, totally fell away. But it was that first step that counted, of actually asking myself the question. And then when I went travelling, I met this person who was reading a book called How to Be Idle, and then everything has unfolded off the back of that book, really, step by step, of like realising that the whole culture is fucked up and not for me, and I've never returned to my corporate job or any environment like that. So yeah, so you don't have to be really spiritual at all, or really already down the spiritual path to get better in this way. Well, at least that wasn't the case for me, because at the time when all this happened, I didn't believe in anything spiritual at all. I didn't believe in anything more than we could see. If someone had said to me back then that I would go on to have a spiritual awakening and believe in angels and talk and do channeling, which I now do, I would absolutely just probably tell them to fuck off, stop being so stupid. I was as mainstream as it gets, as mainstream as it gets. So for me, the starting point was just asking myself the question, and then everything unraveled from there. And the main thing I wanted to do, the main thing I realised I wanted to do, was to travel. And so that was the step, was leaving my career and going off travelling. And even that, was a remarkable thing to be able to do so quickly after recovering, that I managed to, go around the world on my own, be away from home for a year, and I did have a few days where I was tired, but it wasn't really comparable to how bad I felt when I had the chronic fatigue. So yeah, so that's my sort of story on ME, and I definitely feel that the nutrition helped as well. In the rest of my life, I've gone on to really understand how much what we consume in all ways affects us, and affects how we feel. So, it's been more than 10 years since I watched the news. And relationships, obviously we consume relationships in a sense of we consume other people's energy and their ideas and so on. But yes, I think nutrition is huge, and I think everyone has the same sort of experience, that when we eat well, we feel well, and when we eat crap, we feel crap. So I don't think it was the alignment alone, but that's my experience. I can't say it will work for anyone else. Everyone has their own completely unique path and their own unique reasons for why the universe sort of sent them ME. Because this is the thing. Eventually, I got to a point where I saw that my having ME was the greatest gift of my whole life, because it completely changed the direction and future of the entire rest of my life. I was on one path heading to kind of a life of wage slavery and stress and workaholism for the rest of my life, completely not in my body or not respecting how important the body is to an extremely spiritual path. So and now every time I'm ill, no matter what the illness, I truly believe that there's a spiritual underpinning to every illness. And when you start looking into this more, if it's something completely new, I found it really fascinating. Like I just happen to have it just here actually in my bookshelf. Things like The Secret Language of Your Body. Oh, of course it's back to front, but anyway, The Secret Language of Your Body. This book is all about how, the relationship between the emotional problems inside us, or the spiritual issues inside us, and the way that they manifest themselves as symptoms in the body. And there's another book that's fantastic called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and that also shows all the different conditions that a person can have and what kind of is the underlying cause of that condition. And there's a lot of literature. I don't know if you've done much research, but my career, my background is in research. So the more I started to get better, the more research I did, and there's a lot to suggest that it's people who are quite left brain and quite have this like hard working tendency to be more susceptible to getting ME. So it could be the case that there are many people who have it for the same reason I did, that we're kind of on this, like we're just so focused on the career path that we just don't really see anything else. So yeah, so that's it. I hope it helps, and if you have any questions, just ask me. Yeah, okay, bye.